First things first, if you're a finger drummer and you enjoy finger drumming, you should get a Maschine or an MPC. You don't have to watch this video. If you like your Maschine, go ahead, use it. If you're a beginner and you're considering an MPC or a Maschine, in this case I'm talking about a Maschine now because that's what I have most experience with. And yeah, here are 5 reasons or 5 things that nobody else is really talking about, which I find really frustrating, and it's just not working. It should be working, especially today and after all these years. Hi, my name is Tobias and I want to share with you my experience using Maschine and why I won't be upgrading to a Maschine Mic 3 or even a Maschine Plus, and what I would recommend beginners in a similar situation like I was in to use instead. Now, sorry for the crazy winter clothes. Well, I live in Norway and spring hasn't come yet, so the snow came back and it's rather cold today, just above 0. It's really cold, and in this place where I'm sitting right now, it's, yeah, not really warm enough. Anyway, about 2 years ago, I wanted to get back into beat making and find a relaxing way to make my own music, less dependent on a DAW and more hands-on, more intuitive, more, getting to flow state while you create music. So I was considering a Maschine or maybe an MPC, and I ended up buying the Maschine Micro. And since then, I have actually stopped using it altogether, and here are my 5 reasons why I don't use Maschine, and the 5 weirdest things, and I don't understand why they don't work better. So a con for Maschine is, the hardware is great and the software is powerful, but the hardware and the software look so different. Like, the software is completely unusable without the hardware controller. Like, I have my 16 pads, I can play them on the hardware. There's no way of playing with them with the mouse or with the keyboard and record it. It's like, you can't create music unless you have the hardware controller connected. And sometimes you might want to do that. But what I find even more frustrating is that even after 2 years, I don't really understand the software. The hardware seems logical and it works and it's cleanly laid out, it looks good. I actually really like the look of it, but the software just doesn't resemble the hardware. It's like too much. Why is there this bar in the middle with all the effects and settings cramped into it? Why is there, like, where are the 16 pads? Where can I play them? And then I have the piano roll, that kind of makes sense, that's the same as everywhere else. And I have clips on top, kind of makes sense as well, and a browser on the left. Yeah, all good. I mean, I don't know. It's just like there's a disconnect between the software and the hardware. And again, I don't find the software usable without the hardware at all. I do enjoy using the hardware, but I don't like the software. And like I said, worst of all, the software doesn't look like the hardware at all. I don't know. I find the hardware intuitive. I don't find the software intuitive. Point of frustration number 2, or con number 2, is how Maschine, the software or the whole system, handles audio loops and time stretching and syncing of loops. It doesn't make sense. Like, playing samples or kits and samples in one-shot mode is awesome. It makes sense, it works, it's intuitive. But as soon as you switch it over to audio loop thing where it's supposed to sync the tempo to the song, and it's like you can't trigger the sample anymore. It's literally stuck in the beginning of the sample and always plays from the beginning throughout all the bars. And all you can do is basically mute it. Like in Ableton Live, you can trigger the sample any way you want. It's always synced. And that's the same way how it works also in other programs like Serato Studio, which I use more now. It's always synced and I can always trigger it any way I want. In Maschine, you just can't. It's just, as soon as you sync it, as soon as you turn it into an audio loop track, I don't know. It makes no sense to me. It doesn't work. But playing kits and one-shots is great. But synced stuff doesn't work. Con number 3, and another big and massive thing, is the chord modes, or somehow the lack of customization. This Maschine comes with lots of chords built in. You can choose major, minor, and diminished. It gets quite good. It sounds good, but you can't change the chords. And you can only see the chords on the hardware displays of the big Maschine Mark III or the Studio. So if you use a Maschine Micro like me, you don't see the chords at all. Again, the software doesn't reflect what the hardware is doing, just like my point 1 said. So there's no way in the software that I have found, even after 2 years, of seeing the chords. So you can only see them on the screen of the hardware of the Mark III. If you have a Maschine Micro, you don't see the chords at all. You can just hear them and record them. That's a bummer. It's absolute frustrating to not see the chords. And then again, you can't change them. So if you like some of the chords, you can play along. It works. But if you want to put, like, I don't know, if you want to cover a song, or you have to learn some chords somewhere else, you want to play chords like freely, you can't. There's no way of editing the chord sets. It's just that you pick a chord set, and like I said, there are quite some which is good, and they sound good, but you can't customize them at all. It's just frustrating. And that leads me to the next con, number 4, which is the performance strip, whatever it's called, and the strumming function, or actually the weird implementation and lack of strumming. Now, I remember when I saw the Maschine Micro promo video when it was released, I was like, yes, the Micro has all I need. I can play chords, and obviously I want to strum the chords because it's kind of unnatural to hit all notes of each chord at full velocity all the time, so you want to strum them in. And it showed clearly in the video you can strum chords by using the little performance strip. Performance FX, I don't know what it's called. However, if you go into chord mode, the strumming function doesn't work. I repeat that. The strumming function only works if you press 3 or 4 buttons outside of the chord mode. So if you press 3 pads with 3 fingers, you automatically strum them by default. And obviously you're not playing a chord in key. Like, I don't have music theory, I don't know chords, so I need the MIDI helpers or the chord sets. So if I just press 3 pads to create some kind of fake chord, great, then I can use my other fingers to strum them. But I could also just lift my fingers to strum by pressing the pads. Doesn't really give an advantage. And if I switch over to chord mode to press just 1 pad to play a nice sounding chord, then I can't use my finger to strum on the strum effects pad strip thingy. It just doesn't work. The perform effect for strumming only works if you play single pads, not with chords, which is like the greatest oversight. That's where you need it. And I've been waiting for this update for like 2 years. No, nothing. It still doesn't work. That's the only place where strumming really makes sense. Come on, Native Instruments. And finally, con number 5, or really major disadvantage number 5, which is really the greatest one of them all, is that there is no AI or any software solution to like detect pitch or repitch things for you. Maschine software is still the same software like 10 years ago when they released it. Like, now I have transitioned to Serato Studio, and in between I use Serato Sample, which can work in Maschine, and I use that and it kind of makes sense. But Serato Sample, if you drag in any sample, it detects the key, and if you have several samples and several instances, you can sync them. So if you have a sample which is detected to be a key D, and you want to play a bass, you can switch to D and play a bass. Awesome, great. So I used that in Maschine for a while, but Maschine itself can't do it, and I had to buy a $100 plugin called Serato Sample to do that in Maschine. And when Serato came out with Serato Studio, I tried that, and now I use that instead of Maschine. So like I said in the beginning, I'm not a finger drummer. I want to produce music without having to look at software and not being like hindered by the software, by the technical, anything. Like too many settings, too many options. I don't want that. I want to make music and I want to be in the flow. And I can do that now with Serato Sample in Maschine where I need it. So that's a good solution. Or just not using Maschine at all and rather use a DJ controller and Serato Studio to do all the hardware tweaking that I want to do in Serato Studio. I mean, it's like they've looked at this video in the past already before I even made it and fixed all of that, because it detects, like I said, key, tempo, and it syncs everything. And of course you can turn it off or change it just as much as you want. Sorry to go on a little rant here for the competitor, but that's my recommendation for you if you're a beginner and you're not a finger drummer, but you want to use samples and MIDI and you want to play drums, sample stuff, chop it. Check out Serato Studio. It is more affordable. You can buy hardware controllers, a variety of them, usually DJ controllers, to give you the hardware feel of a machine. But also it is really optimized for your laptop or computer keyboard and mouse. So whereas Maschine doesn't really work with mouse and keyboard, and most other DAWs don't either, Serato Studio does. So you kind of, like, your laptop becomes a hardware controller to play drums and even piano, and it's quite good. So Maschine is nice, but I feel like it's the Maschine that I didn't buy in 2008 or 9 when it came out. Now that I bought it 2 years ago, it's like, it's nice, but it still lacks all the functionality that I wish I had. And to be honest, I mean, haven't you watched any of the great Maschine users on YouTube? And they drag in a sample, they chop it, they have fun, they add some drums, and that is a flow and it works great, but then they want to play a bass or a melody on top, and then they usually stop the video and edit it. For example, some of my favorite YouTubers that use Maschine, like Accurate Beats from Sweden, or Sarah the Instrumentalist, they usually edit the video and just have like when they're trying to find notes that match the sample to play a bass or a melody on top, they usually edit the video. And once they have found the right notes, then they start the video again. They edit out the 20 minutes or whatever, how long frustrating time there is, while they have to find the notes.
Now I just need to find a root note that goes together with the sample, so let's do that. Let's try something with a higher pitch to see if it's actually easier to find a note like that.
And they're honest about it. They usually add a text or something. This took forever to find the right notes. And that's fine. I appreciate that they do that. And I totally understand that that's frustrating to find the key and the notes. And yeah, there are easier ways out there, but Maschine doesn't have them. I don't have the musical knowledge, nor the ear, nor the patience to sit there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or however long to find a bunch of notes that fit my sample, when I know there's software out there that is super easy to use and can find the notes and the pitch and sync it for me, like Serato Sample. So I really, really, really don't like that Maschine can't do that. Even after all these years, and even after competitors having that function, or again, plugins like Serato Sample, you can use that in Maschine to get that function, but Maschine itself just can't do it. It's super annoying. So those are my 5 top disadvantages, 5 cons of using a Maschine. Again, if you want to do finger drumming and playing kits from Maschine mainly, or triggering samples, one-shots, Maschine is awesome. And I find it more easy to use than, for example, an MPC. I've tried that as well. I don't own one, it's just too complicated. It's even an older workflow from 30 years ago, almost. So I want something that is new for today and intuitive by today's standard, not by the standards of 10 years ago or 30 years ago. So before you buy a Maschine as a new beginner, please, please, I hope you find this video and I hope you find it helpful, and maybe try it out in a store once the store's open again and you can actually check out stuff, or at least try before you buy. And I hope you find this video helpful. Again, this is not intended to be a Maschine bashing video. I hope they improve it. I like the hardware, it looks great, it feels good, it works great for what it does, but it lacks a whole bunch of features, which I think in 2021, it definitely should have those features now. We are not in the past anymore. Computers are strong, pitch detection is there. Maybe they have to license technology from other companies, or can develop something themselves. I don't know. Technology is there, but Maschine doesn't have it. They should add some customization. They should improve on the chords and the strumming and audio tracks and loops. It's just so much. And usually that's what you don't see in the Maschine promo videos, or other users don't show it because they have found workarounds so they don't need to bother with those issues. But if you're a beginner, I hope you find this helpful, and have a blessed day. And remember, have fun, relax, and enjoy making music.
The Maschine Show.